What's up everyone, and welcome again to another video. And today I wanted to do a review of the beautiful 118 Diecast Minichamps Jordan Ford 191 from the 1991 Formula 1 season. And this is of course the car made famous by Michael Schumacher's debut at the Belgian Grand Prix of that year. The number 32 Jordan car was originally driven by Bertrand Gachot, but in the run-up to the Belgian Grand Prix he got into an altercation with a London taxi driver and was sentenced to jail. So Jordan needed a new driver and cue Willy Weber and Jochen Neerpasch to buy a seat for their young protege Michael Schumacher, who was driving for Sauber Mercedes in the Sports Cars World Championship. At the time, team boss Eddie Jordan had never heard of Michael Schumacher, but he didn't even care. He just wanted the money for his team to survive. But Michael, as we all know now, did a fantastic job, qualifying an amazing 7th in front of his more experienced teammates Andrea De Cesaris, who was a bit known as a backmarker maybe, but he was very fast on his day. So Michael qualified in front of him, had a great start of the race as well, and he was actually 5th at La Source in the first corner, but he burned his clutch during the start, not knowing how fragile the Formula 1 clutches were, and he was out after a few hundred meters. 1991 was the first season for the Jordan team, and it was a great year for them, finishing 5th in the championship, scoring some strong results throughout the year. And that fair race at Spa, they actually could have won it with Michael or even De Cesaris, because at the end of the race, race leader Ayrton Senna had some problems with his McLaren, and second place De Cesaris was catching him very fast, but then De Cesaris' engine blew, and gone was the potential win and the certain podium. The Jordan team has a funny link with Spa as well, where yeah, of course in 91 it was their Schumacher debut. Then in 1994 they scored their first pole position there with Rubens Barrichello in the wet, and then again in the wet 4 years later with Damon Hill they scored their first win, which was actually a 1-2 as well, because Michael's brother Ralph finished a fantastic second in that race. So Minichamps did this beautiful 118th version of this car. They released it back in 2003 and then again re-released it in 2010. This is a model without a driver figurine because they didn't have the Schumacher license back then, which was with Mattel Hot Wheels. But for 2019 I believe they have announced a new version, and this will probably be with the driver figurine as they have the Schumacher license now. The car itself was a huge success, not only in terms of results, but it's a very striking car as well, and that livery of course also helps. The beautiful green, which is incidentally also the Irish green, but goes so well with the 7-Up branding. It was designed by Gary Anderson, who was asked to make a simple and nimble car, and he did, and he even made it look quite dramatic. I think it looks kind of an aggressive car, and yeah, it's one of the most beautiful F1 cars ever in my opinion. If we look at the design features like this front wing where it arches up, and you have that yeah, that beautiful shape, and the shorter nose, but it's just a beautiful shape at the front. Then the side pods are also very interesting, where you can see there there's a bit of an undercut there, and it swoops around the rear suspension in a very beautiful shape, and blends into the diffuser basically at the end. So yeah, very beautiful side pods. Then the engine cover as well, how the back just falls away like that, looks really cool. And then the aggressive forward pointing roll hoop of the airbox looks really aggressive and really really beautiful. Then the rear wing has these long end plates and the narrow end plates, which looks really cool again. And then you have that mighty diffuser, the huge diffuser, and it's aggressively angled towards the back, which looks really cool. And there you can see the exhaust underneath the diffuser, which was the trend back then, of course. Then I did some modifications to this model. As you can see on the wheels, as I usually do, I added some extra decals and tire markings on all 4 wheels, of course, the lefts and the rights. And then I added some extra details like these rivets on the nose, and then some fasteners on the engine cover and the side pod, just to make it a bit better even. So the model, as I said, is diecast, so diecast metal, and even the front wing is actually in metal, except for the end plates. They're actually plastic, so it's not one whole piece, it's just the end plates are glued to the metal front wing parts, which looks pretty good, I think. The suspension is really simple, the wheels are good, and there's a little antenna missing there on top of the cockpit. But yeah, the brake scoops are very good, the wheels are very good as well, I think. Even though I'm not sure if the wheel nuts were in different colors, lefts and rights. I can't tell from the pictures, but I guess it is correct. Then a nice touch, a nice thing they noticed are the mirrors. They're actually red on this car, and for a lot of the weekends Schumacher drove with green mirrors, but for the race he used the red mirrors, so I assume this is the race car, or they based it on the race car, given that there's the Tic Tac sponsoring on it as well as it was there during the race. The car ran in several liveries, without a Tic Tac, with a Tic Tac, with that little Cosberg logo on it, and then in the race they had a different logo, so I think that's maybe a bit of an oversight or a mistake. They did that, otherwise my pictures are not correct. That could also be the case, of course. And they also ran with these strengthening cables or stability cables going from the engine cover to the rear wing, but during the race they didn't use it, so I assume it is the race car. So given you don't have the cables and you have the Tic Tac sponsoring. Then moving on to the cockpit of the car, there's no drive figurine, as I said, so they could only use the name but not the likeness and not the helmet, so no figurine. And some people prefer driverless. I prefer it with the helmet because I think it says something about the personality of the driver, and the seat that they use is pretty bad, I think. Just plastic with plastic seat belts molded into it. Then the steering wheel and the dashboard are okay, not too detailed, but not too much details in the cars back then, of course. One thing is a bit annoying, there's a gear stick lever that should be there because the car was a manual, but yeah, there's the gear stick lever that's missing, and if you don't use a figurine you might as well put the gear stick lever in it. If there's a figurine in it you barely see it, so I understand if you don't use it back then, but now there's no figurine, so it's a bit of a shame that there isn't that little detail. So the rest of the car, the shapes are very good, with these bulges in the engine cover as well, very nicely replicated, and that's a beautiful curve in the engine cover, as I said. Then you have some rivets in the rear wing end plates, but I think those are the holes for the pegs for the rear wing planes, or whatever you call them. And then of course that very beautiful aggressive diffuser with the rear light underneath the lower rear wing beam, and that looks very, very good actually. Then they did some carbon fiber texturing on the floor as well, which looks okay. So yeah, a very good looking model, very good looking car, and Minichamps did a pretty good job on this one. I think it's only the little gear stick lever that's a bit of a shame, and I actually have two versions of this car. I have this version and a conversion with the tire warmers and a figurine in the car who's stepping out or stepping into the car. And this little tire warmers, I bought it like that, so I didn't convert it myself, but it's a pretty cool little gimmick. And I did add the little extra details to this car as well, of course. And then the figurine, as I said, not the best figurine there is, but yeah, it looks pretty good. And as I said, I prefer it with a figurine, especially the helmet I think is important, so I'm pretty happy with that. And as you can see, he's holding the steering wheel to get in or get out, however you want to see it. So yeah, it's a very iconic model for Formula 1 history and Schumacher fans, of course, and I'm very happy Minichamps did a great job on that. So yeah, that was a review. I hope you liked it. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon for our next video.